The Galactic Combat Academy had trained warriors from 17 different species over its 3-century existence. Never had Instructor Velkath faced a student quite like Ava Chen. The Zypherian stood at the front of the tactical training hall, his forearms crossed in a gesture that signaled both authority and mild irritation. His exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lights as he surveyed the mixed species class before him. Humans were the newest addition to the Galactic Coalition, and their presence in his advanced combat course was still controversial. Today's lesson, Velkath began, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into standard galactic, concerns improvised warfare. In combat, you will not always have access to conventional weapons. You must learn to use what's around you. Ava sat in the third row, her dark eyes fixed on the instructor with an intensity that made several of her Krellian classmates uncomfortable. Beside her, Leo Martinez leaned back in his seat, a slight smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. He'd known Ava since their first day at the academy, and he recognized that look. "Oh no," Liam whispered. "You're doing it again." Ava replied, not breaking her gaze from Velkath. The instructor activated his holodisc, projecting a 3-dimensional battlefield scenario above the lecture floor. Consider this situation. You are ambushed in an administrative center. No weapons. Limited exits. Enemies approaching from multiple vectors. What do? Ava's hand shot up. Velkath's mandibles twitched the Zypherian equivalent of a sigh. "Yes, Cadet Chen. Sir, you said to use what's around us." "Correct. That is the premise of today's your lecture notes," Ava interrupted, standing up. "May I borrow them?" The classroom fell silent. Interrupting an instructor was considered deeply disrespectful in Galactic Coalition culture. Liam closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. Velkath's compound eyes narrowed. "My lecture notes." "Yes, sir." "The datapad you're holding. It's around me. I'd like to use it." A ripple of shocked chittering and gasps moved through the classroom. One of the Krellians, a massive bear-like creature named Orcs, leaned toward his companion. "Is she challenging him?" Velkath set down his datapad on the podium with deliberate care. "Cadet Chen, you are in the middle of my class, which is about using what's around me," Ava said, walking down the steps toward the front of the room. Liam stood up as well, recognizing the signs. When Ava got like this, someone needed to be ready to either back her up or pull her out of the fire. Usually both. "The scenario you described," Ava continued, reaching the floor level, "an administrative center. That means computers, datapads, networking equipment. In human terms, that means we're standing in a room full of weapons." Velkath's posture shifted. Despite his irritation, he was intrigued. "Explain." Ava picked up the datapad from his podium before he could stop her. Her fingers flew across its surface. "Every device in this room is connected to the Academy network. Your lecture notes contain the building schematics, student records, equipment manifests, all standard instructor materials." "Cadet Chen, return my in 17 seconds. Ava interrupted again. "Still working. I've accessed the environmental controls for this building, cross-referenced them with the species biology files from your attendance roster, and identified 3 ways to incapacitate the entire class without throwing a single punch." The room went deadly quiet. Liam stepped down to the floor level, positioning himself strategically. He knew Ava wasn't actually going to do anything to the class, but Velkath didn't know that, and some of the other students looked ready to intervene. "Demonstrate," Velkath said softly, all 4 arms now uncrossed. His teaching mode had fully activated. Ava turned the datapad to show the holodisc. Option 1. The Krellians in the room are sensitive to high-frequency sound. The building's fire alarm system can be modulated through the maintenance panel to emit frequencies outside human hearing range but debilitating to their species. Estimated incapacitation time, for seconds. Thorks shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Option 2, Ava continued, swiping to another screen. Zypherians have enhanced visual acuity but are vulnerable to rapid light fluctuations. The room's adaptive lighting system can be overclocked to create a strobing effect that would trigger severe disorientation. I could do this from any networked device in the building. Velkath's mandibles clicked, rapidly impressed despite himself. Option 3, Ava said, meeting the instructor's eyes. Humans have a saying, information is power. Your lecture notes contain personal frequencies, emergency contact protocols, and security clearances. In a real combat scenario, this datapad is a skeleton key to the entire facility. She set the pad back on the podium. You taught us last week that every species has exploitable weaknesses. You taught us that technology is a force multiplier. You taught us to think 3 moves ahead. She gestured to the datapad. I'm just applying your lessons, sir. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Liam tensed, ready to step in if this went sideways. Then Velkath began to laugh at chittering, clicking sound that his translator struggled to render. By the ancestral hive, he said, all four arms spreading wide in a gesture of acknowledgement. This is why the coalition was terrified when your species applied for membership. He looked out at the class. Humans are not the strongest species, not the fastest, not the most technologically advanced, but they see weapons where others see tools. They see strategy where others see coincidence. They have spent their entire evolutionary history fighting each other, and it shows. Velkath picked up his datapad and held it aloft. Cadet Chen weaponized my lecture notes before I finished explaining the scenario. She turned my own teaching materials against me in the time it took me to present a hypothetical. He set it down and activated a new full marks cadet, and a new security protocol for instructor datapads, effective immediately. The class erupted in various forms of laughter and approval. Liam let out the breath he'd been holding and walked over to Ava, shaking his head. You're absolutely insane, he muttered. Ava grinned. He said to use what's around me. He's going to make the rest of the semester hell for you, you know that, right? Worth it, she replied. Velkatha's voice cut through the noise. Cadet Martinez, since you felt the need to join Cadet Chen at the front of the room, perhaps you'd like to demonstrate how you would counter her strategy. Liam's eyes widened. Ava patted his shoulder sympathetically. You said to use what's around me, Liam said slowly, looking at Ava. Does that include my classmates? Velkath's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Now you're learning. As the class dissolved into an impromptu tactical exercise, with students forming teams and counter-strategies, the instructor made a note in his personal log, a note that wouldn't be stored on any networked device. Human cadets, highly adaptable, dangerously creative, concerningly unpredictable. Recommend advanced placement for both Chen and Martinez. Also recommend never give them access to anything you're not prepared to lose. He watched as Ava and Liam began coordinating with other students, turning the entire classroom into a complex tactical simulation. Humans, he reflected, didn't just think outside the box. They weaponized the box, then used it to build something entirely unexpected, and that's exactly why the galaxy needed them.